beware of snake oil. Well, I could write a book on this one. So there's a number of different facets to this. We can look professionally at this. We can look at the commercial aspects of this, and we can look at the social. And the social aspects are, I suppose, something like our belief and everybody else's belief in the importance of this. And a lot of people will give you their take on it, and it may be based on fact, usually it isn't. And is that snake oil? Well, unfortunately, it still goes in the same bottle. And the only way of overcoming that is having the knowledge to be able to refute that, and to be able to speak to people who do know, to make a stronger argument for what is, you believe, appropriate. We will touch on the commercial basis, and as I say, you could write a book about this. There's psychology involved, and that is, you've only got to open, well, I was going to say a phone book, which you don't do that anymore, but you've only got to go on Google or on the internet for a few minutes and having a look at sleep aids. It becomes patently apparent that they promise the sun, the moon and the stars, and unlike dentists who have regulatory bodies to look to, let's put that loosely, then who regulate us, so let's call a spade a spade, who regulate us, they can say whatever they like. And some of the things out there are positively dangerous. Once again, we can't really do anything about that because we're fighting on an unlevel playing field here, because they've got everything in their favour. They've got many times the people who are reading it are looking for what they want to see, and they know that, and so consequently they'll offer what it is that the potential customer or client or patient wants to see. So in that respect, things are stacked against us. And all we can do really is know the facts so that we can not refute, but expose the shortcomings of the snake oil that's being sold in gallons right now by other people. Now, I won't, I've got to be careful here, but I won't relate snake oil to CPAP, but what I would say is that if we're going to provide dental sleep medicine services, which includes oral appliance therapy, I think that we have to recognize the way in which sales are made, so that we don't do the same thing. CPAP, there are many providers out there who are honest and provide all the options and are really in it for the patient's best interest. There are also a lot that are not, and they will say do anything to make the sale. The sadness is that you could almost argue that there was a case for that, because the need is so great, assuming that it's not trying to treat people who are who don't have obstructive sleep apnea, or trying to or successfully treating snoring, primary snoring, with no obstructive sleep apnea, with a CPAP. That's just, well, put it this way, to argue the case for treating sleep disordered breathing with CPAP is strong. To sell those therapies and modalities without giving patients a true picture and their true options falls within the snake oil pit. And as I say, if you were going to provide all of those things to the point where you are skirting ethical behavior, okay, you could almost argue a case for that, providing those people that then failed that therapy were then directed, and of course these things don't go together, but were then directed to a possible option. You can look on the internet and see that for yourself. It's in clear abundance. So from a professional standpoint, which is what this was actually meant to be all about, I've just written a couple of takes down on this, and there are several ways that you can approach the subject of integrating dental sleep medicine into your professional life. So you can go, number one, you can go on an expensive course, you can learn everything, become an expert, and live happily ever after. And that sounds a pretty good choice. The only thing is it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way because when you've learned everything, you realize that there's more that you don't know than you do know. In fact, it's been my experience that the more I know, the more I realize that actually the less I know. And an expensive course, apart from the disadvantage of the expensive bit, and the usually time-consuming bit, is that they're teaching you solutions to problems that many of us don't know exist yet. I remember I had lunch with a dean once when I was at a course, and he turned around and said the problem with the undergraduate course was it was all about teaching the undergraduate students solutions to problems that they didn't know yet existed. And we're faced with the same thing. So the second choice is we can dabble and give up. And I have a strong suspicion that a lot of people do that. It's not the easiest thing. It may be simple to provide dental sleep medicine services, but it's not always easy from a practical standpoint. And people will fall at different hurdles. But either way, it's disillusioning for yourself. It is frustrating for the team who just look at the sky and think to themselves, what is it going to be this week? And the patients, because some of them may have been given hope and they may actually go home and tell people only to find out that you don't do it anymore. So you could go to an expensive course, learn everything, then dabble and give up. And of course the main disadvantage with that is it has all the same advantages as dabble and give up, but the thing is you just spent time and money on an expensive course. You could argue that it gives you some more core knowledge for dentistry, but if that doesn't fit the belief system that you have, then that's actually more confusing than it is an advantage. So you can get involved without making an enormous commitment in terms of time and money, and that you will plod on with it and basically have the same commitment as if you were reading the daily newspaper, checking social media, or brush your teeth in the morning. Now, of course, as with everything, there's a middle of the road, which in this case is somewhere within that overall group of options. And my belief is that rather than going on a course and being taught things by other people, that where you then go out and make the mistakes yourself to actually have them embedded, what would be nice is to have the mistakes that other people have made in an understandable fashion to you, provided so that then you understand. Now, that requires, unfortunately, time, and that's the one thing that most of us don't have, and it's the one thing that most of us are least prepared to give up. It's true that it's a non-renewable resource, but like everything else, like going to dental school is a non-renewable resource, but we did it. And so in a situation like this, I think it's a good idea to commit enough, not only initially, and that doesn't mean buying loads of expensive and complicated equipment, but to commit enough on a sort of emotional level, I suppose, and then plod. Because unless you're going to commit to a certain amount of time, and a year is a convenient number, and do everything that you can realistically within that period of time, I think you should just not dabble. I think you should just give up. I think you should learn why this is being done by other people, and I think you should refer to people who are going to do it. They've made the commitment, just like an endodontist or a periodontist or an oral surgeon or an orthodontist. They've made a commitment. They're sticking to what they do. They don't generally do other things, and you refer to them for people for problems that you do not wish to involve you and your practice in, and you expect the patient to come back. That referral process is well accepted in dentistry, and this is just another area. However, as the regulatory departments are very, very quick to point out, this is not a specialty. But it really doesn't matter that it's not a specialty, providing we approach it in a professional fashion and we do all the things that are expected of us from being referred to. Then you refer the patient out and you don't have to deal with all of this stuff. On the other hand, if you do want to proceed and you do want to include it in your practice, and obviously I'm biased because it does affect many other things, we're not talking about just making oral appliances here, then I think that it behooves us to get properly trained and skillful and knowledgeable, and that can only come by making a commitment emotionally, not necessarily financially.